After the emperor builds structure in the material world, the fool encounters the Hierophant. This is the guardian of tradition, spiritual teachings, and ancestral wisdom. Hey friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Elizabeth and I share deck flip-throughs, spreads, VRs, and so much more. Welcome back to the Fool's Journey. Today we are stepping into the wisdom of the Hierophant. The Hierophant is a conduit between divine truth and earthly understanding. The symbolism invites reflection on how faith, tradition, and sacred knowledge shape our path. Let's take a look at the symbolism that we find in the Hierophant. So first, we have the triple crown and staff. They've done a beautiful job of laying out what it looks like. At least I feel like it's a better view here than it is on the original card. But the triple crown and the staff represent the Hierophant's spiritual authority. Now, usually we're going to find, I call these the two disciples, but, let's just call them two acolytes at his feet. This is going to be the reminder to us that teaching is relational and that spiritual wisdom is passed from one person to another. We normally see the throne right in between the two pillars, and that mirrors what we have seen in the High Priestess card. I think the key difference here is that the Hierophant is rooted in visible systems, religious institutions, moral frameworks, and cultural rituals. We also see the hand in benediction gesture. That's a symbol of blessing, guidance, and the transmission of sacred power. This card is connected to Taurus, and that's fixed earth energy that values tradition, commitment, and sustainability. The Hierophant asks, what wisdom is worth preserving? And what beliefs help us grow? And which ones hold us back? Now, not everyone resonates with the Hierophant. A lot of people view him through the lens of organized religion or patriarchy, dogma, and that can all feel restricting. But I think the deeper message is about finding meaning and structure through shared belief, and also the courage to question inherited truths. I don't know that I ever did that as a child. I think I first started asking questions much later in my life. And it's interesting when you talk to other people about their spiritual path or their journey, oftentimes you'll hear that they started asking questions at an early age. And that is the magic of the Hierophant. And so you might ask yourself, well, how does the Hierophant show up in my everyday life? Well, it could be through exploring teachings, systems, sacred texts. It could be honoring ancestral traditions, right? Rituals, customs, family beliefs that have been passed down through generations. It can also be participating in community practices, such as group meditations, ceremonies, or shared values. Another way could be seeking mentorship or guidance, leaning into support from teachers or elders or spiritual leaders. And I kind of hinted at this earlier, but questioning beliefs, reevaluating inherited truths with discernment and authenticity, right? The Hierophant invites us to ask, do I follow tradition out of alignment or out of habit? What do I believe truly? Now, the Hierophant is connected to the fives in the tarot, and the fives are usually representing things like challenges, change, disruption, and that kind of echoes the Hierophant's lesson that growth comes through tension between the old and the new. And I love that way of thinking of it. So here we have the Five of Wands, right? Competition, differing values. How do we reconcile individual expression with shared belief? And then we have the Five of Cups. We see an emotional loss. We're mourning old narratives. And so a question we might ask ourselves is, what truths have changed or been lost? And here we have the Five of Swords, conflict through ideas, clashing perspectives. A question that we might ask is, what beliefs are worth defending? And then over here, the Five of Pentacles, right? Spiritual poverty, disconnection. And so you might find yourself asking, when systems fail, where do we turn for guidance, right? The fives challenge us to break away from outdated traditions while still honoring the wisdom that endures. If you're here, you probably have a collection of decks, and you'll notice that a lot of times the Hierophant is represented by a priest, some kind of spiritual authority that holds space for ritual and order. So for many people, this is going to bring on feelings of religious conditioning, control, or even trauma. But I think that discomfort is actually a part of the medicine for this archetype. Some of the Hierophant cards in my collection show a figure that resembles Jesus. And I see it as symbolic of spiritual teaching, unconditional love, and sacrifice. But I also recognize that the image of Jesus can also bring on feelings of religious conditioning, control, and trauma. And I feel this archetype invites us to not only examine the beliefs that we've inherited, but also to decide which aspects continue to serve us and which don't. What matters is the relationship you choose to have with spiritual truth. If the Hierophant is a card that you find triggering, some questions that you could perhaps ask are, what belief systems have shaped me, willingly or not? Am I following tradition? Why or why not? Am I free to choose my own truth? And what happens when I question the sacred and reclaim it for myself? That's why reinterpretations of the Hierophant are so important, because they help reclaim spiritual guidance from dogma to personal, relational, and more soul aligned versus top down. And that's actually a great segue into our first card. Okay, so here we have the Simdala, and the key word on this card is actually self-governance, right? This is the inner Hierophant. This comes from that idea that spiritual truth is actually within. The Hierophant teaches discernment, autonomy, and inner alignment, and it asks, what values do I live by? What is my personal code of wisdom? Let's take a look at the shaman. This card here from the Vision Quest is more like a bridge between the worlds, right? We see the Hierophant as a shaman here on earth. But then we see the spirit animals here, and it shows that connection. This Hierophant is more of a liminal guide, right? The emphasis is on ritual, healing, and direct communication with the unseen. So less about dogma, more about embodied wisdom and transformation. And this card invites you to ask, what spiritual practices connect me to the divine? Now, let's take a look at the elder. This is from the Akamara Tarot. The elder here is the wisdom keeper. This is a respected elder of a community, one who has lived and witnessed and now teaches. Whether we see that as a grandparent, a mentor, some guide in the community, this card honors intergenerational wisdom and the sacred role of storytelling. It asks, what lessons have I inherited and what legacy am I shaping? Let's take a look at something a little bit different. Here we have the oldest one. This is from Forest of Enchantment. We're seeing the Hierophant as nature's memory, right? A tree as a Hierophant, that brings on the themes of time, being deeply rooted in wisdom, and a slow unfolding of truth. This card could represent earth-based spirituality, ancestral knowledge, and the idea that tradition lives in the land itself. It is asking, what ancient truths live in my bones, and what stories do the trees remember? I have this card here. This is the Hierophant from Naturescapes. You can see that same idea. A tree that has been in place for years and years and years, storing that knowledge and that wisdom. Same with this Hierophant from Tarot Landscapes. Here we get the view from below looking up. And we also see a doorway or a portal into the tree. And if you look closely, we have two little birds. So we can see that the acolytes are present. Now I want to show this card here. This is from the Gaian, and we can see the tree, but also we have this figure here, the teacher. Kind of similar to the card from Vision Quest where we had a spirit animal. We can see the spirit animal here in the background, but also this Hierophant is surrounded by the sacred herbs. This version is focused on education, the transmission of knowledge. It could appear in moments when you're called to learn, to teach, or to share insight. And one might ask, what am I ready to learn? What truth am I ready to pass on? Now I'm going to remove this card here and add the card from Tarot of Light with the keyword guidance. In this case, it's more like a gentle compass, right? It's offering us gentle direction, a nudge toward alignment, right? A whisper of truth. It's about spiritual companionship versus control. So here one might ask, where am I being guided? And what signs are showing me the way? Along the lines of teacher, we have the professor. And if you've noticed, we've also shifted into our female hierophants. The professor is the intellectual Hierophant. This version is all about education, curiosity, and analytical wisdom, right? Rather than ritual or doctrine. The professor guides through study, dialogue, and through learning. Now, here we see that she's presented as a female. So she challenges the traditional masculine form of authority. And she might be asking, what can we learn when we question with the heart and the mind? And what truths arise when knowledge meets intuition? And I didn't mention that this professor is from the Rosebud, but while we're here on the subject of teachers, I also want to show the card from the Guiding Muse because, again, we see the female Hierophant as a teacher, and with the chalkboard in the background, uh, you can see that this is likely the influence of a Hierophant type over younger minds, where this one is perhaps influencing adults in early career. The female presenting Hierophant challenges gender norms, and it helps to expand our view of who holds the knowledge. The lesson of the Hierophant, I feel, evolves when it's viewed as a bridge versus a gatekeeper. So here we have the Hierophant from Cirque du Tarot, along with the Hierophant from the Mermaid Tarot. In the Cirque du Tarot, she is the behind the scenes person. She is the one that is orchestrating everything behind the scenes, right? Backstage. Everyone is running to her to get direction, to get guidance, and she is ultimately the one that pulls the show together. And then on this side, we have the mermaid in a library taking down information, and she's surrounded by books, and you can see that she's not just taking down the information, but at some point she's gonna share that knowledge. Now here we have the Hierophant as the mentor, and this is the Hierophant from I Am the Artist. We can see a female creative here, a creative guide. And this version shows wisdom through creativity, maybe emotional intelligence, authentic storytelling. She isn't just a transmitter of knowledge, but she's a bridge to personal truth. And she encourages others to seek wisdom through art, through intuition, and through play. Her presence honors mentorship as a co-creative process, right? She is asking, what truths are born through creation? Who helps me embrace my unique path with courage and imagination? I wanted to take a look at this card here from the Sufi. And here we have Pur. Now, in Sufism, Pur is a spiritual guide or elder, right? This is devotion, surrender, the transmission of divine love. And it is asking, who helps me walk the path of the heart? And what teachings awaken my soul? There's something really special about this card that just resonates so much. And here we have the lovely Om. The Hierophant here is shown as Lord Ganesha, remover of obstacles, right? This version brings this unique blend of wisdom, of joy, spiritual mastery. This is the patron of beginnings, intellect, and sacred order. And it reminds us that spiritual structure can be playful, loving, and deeply transformative. It's asking what obstacles are ready to be cleared and what sacred truths bring me joy. It's just such a beautiful representation. I wanted to share the card from my Creatures Tarot, and we can see the creature has two students here. Might be a little difficult to see, but two students here, just like our Hierophant does. I feel like this is a very clever way to represent out in nature. You can see the trees in the background. I really like this version. And then here we have Tarot of Mystical Moments. We see the Hierophant in the form of an owl, passing on wisdom and knowledge to the student who is listening, like practically on the edge of her seat to every word. And I love this so much. The Hierophant isn't an easy card to maneuver, so I thought we would end it with something a little bit more humorous. So here we have the Hierophant from the Bohemian Gothic. And this figure here looks like they have zero interest in passing on any kind of information or knowledge. In fact, they look troubled. And when I look at this card, it always reminds me of the character from Harry Potter, right? The teacher. That's what that reminds me of every time I see this figure. And speaking of movies, this is the Hierophant from the Sassy Burrito. And every time I see this figure, I am reminded of the Romeo and Juliet film where Leonardo DiCaprio played the part of Romeo. I don't know if anyone has seen this film, but this is the priest to me. He looks just like the priest. Oh, but I love it so much. And then let's look at Nightmare Before Christmas. We have the mayor, which is hilarious, but at the same time, so clever. Because this Hierophant shows a figure of authority who is often under pressure, right? He's funny, but he represents institutional anxiety, right? This is a character that is desperate to follow protocol and always unsure about what to do without guidance. When Jack disappears, he loses it. This is a reflection of the shadow side of the Hierophant. You know, this is that blind adherence to rules, right? Without any spiritual depth. Fear of disapproval or disruption to tradition. Split identity when caught between your public role and your inner truth. It's meant to be a bit of a satire, but it shows us that leaders are not infallible and spiritual authority can feel empty without genuine connection. Friends, if you love tarot and are interested in learning more about the archetypes, please be sure to subscribe, tap the bell icon so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. If you know someone who might benefit from the series, feel free to share. That's a wonderful way to help smaller channels like mine get their voices heard throughout YouTube. Now, I thought we could do a reading to learn more about the energy of the Hierophant, and I'm going to be using the Mermaid Tarot. So I'm setting our Hierophant off to the side here because this is our anchor card. And I'm going to shuffle my deck, which actually I just recently edged it. And I was, I don't know, forming my bonds with the deck, and I decided to edge it. So while I shuffle, I'll share a funny story. Recently, I called my daughter the Hierophant because I was home, I was working, and the house was quiet. The kids were gone, the cats were, I don't know, wherever the cats are. My daughter shows up and pulls up a chair next to me. And I kid you not, within like 10 seconds of her sitting there, we turn around and both the cats are like two little disciples sitting behind her, just staring at her. And I was just like, we are gonna be pulling 3 cards today. And I think we may have to zoom out just a little. So let me do that. Card number 1. What inherited belief is influencing right now? What inherited belief is influencing right now? Right here. Okay, we have the Three of Wands. Now, card number 2. How can I honor wisdom while remaining true to myself? So this is for the collective. So we're going to say, how can we honor wisdom while remaining true to ourselves? Right here. Ooh, the Hanged Man. Okay. And then card number 3. What spiritual truth is ready to anchor me going forward? All right, so for the collective, what spiritual truth is ready to anchor us going forward? Spiritual truth. What spiritual truth is ready? Ooh, the Five of Wands. How interesting. All right, we're reading on the energy of the Hierophant. And we can see our Hierophant here taking copious notes, I'm sure, documenting all of the learnings in the great library. And so the question is, what inherited belief is influencing right now? And we have the Three of Wands. If we're seeking an inherited belief that is influencing, maybe a question that we could ask is this something that's helping us or holding us back? With that Three of Wands, I feel like the belief is something that is actually helping us or propelling us forward, right? The Three of Wands is a card of putting plans into place, taking that next step. So we're done with this learning and studying mode, and we're moving on into actually putting things into place. So the belief that we're reading on right now is something that is helping us. Maybe that belief is you feel liberated. Maybe that belief is you are no longer supporting what you believed in growing up, and you're charting your own path, right? You're creating your new future. A lot of times with inherited beliefs, we believe everything because we love and we trust our caretakers, and we don't question, right? Oftentimes we don't question. And maybe we're at that point right now where we are asking questions, where we are taking time to study, to learn, to ask those deeper questions and do those inner reflections. And now we're ready to maybe stake a claim on the things that we do believe in, or the things that we want to change in terms of our belief systems. And then we have card number 2. How can I honor wisdom and remain true to myself? We have the Hangman. You know, that shows me just how difficult that has to be. You know, it's a struggle a lot of times to go against all of the things that were taught to you from an early age. And not just going against it, but then trying to understand what it is that you want to do moving forward, or what it is that you're choosing to believe in moving forward. The spiritual awakening process is not easy. There's a reason why they call it the dark night of the soul, right? Because you're questioning everything that you grew up with, but you're not an expert. You're not 100% sure what it is that you want to do. And so this means that now we have to kind of do a little bit of trial and error, you know, talk to different people, read different books, make different observations. Maybe you try something for a little while and you decide that's not for me. Maybe you adapt bits and pieces of the things that you are learning from various groups. But whatever it is definitely a path that leads to a lot of internal conflict and turmoil. And I feel like with this Hangman card here, it shows just how confrontational this type of work is. You know, you could be facing yourself, stuck in place, not really knowing what to do, or trying to desperately figure out how to get out of this horribly uncomfortable situation. But sometimes we have to sit in our discomfort in order to find our truth. And then we have card number 3. What truth is ready to anchor me going forward? We have the 5 of Wands, and it's very interesting because usually we will see the 5 figures kind of tangled up amongst themselves, but in this case it almost seems like they have formed a united front. They have combined their power together against whatever it is that is in their opposition. And I think that's very, very interesting for this reading. What truth is ready to anchor me going forward? Maybe that there is strength in community, there is strength in finding your tribe. Maybe what this is saying is that it's easier if you do it with a group than if you were to try and battle this on your own. And you know, groups are not for everyone because it's an individual path, but oftentimes when we're on this spiritual journey, we are looking for that connection point, right? Like, I don't think that we all want to go off and start our own things, right? A lot of times we aim to find other people who are like-minded, right? People that resonate, that vibe on the same level as us, that have that, you know, same energy that matches our own. And so maybe what this card is suggesting is that, you know, we need to link arms with other like-minded souls in order to be able to move forward. I think it's interesting that here we have the Hangman, a card connected with the element of water, and that it's flanked by fire on both sides. It's coming for you. Whatever it is, it's coming for you. And it's going to get progressively tougher. We go from a 3 to a 5, right? It's going to escalate. The energy is going to escalate. So it's not an easy path, but it's a path that we all have to take. Right? Typically, I like to also look at the numbers. So we have a 3 and a 5. Both are odd numbers. Threes are speaking to growth and expansion, but we all know that there's growing pains associated with growth. And then we have the number 5. That number is connected with change, instability, conflict, challenge. So there's a lot of big energy that is sandwiching this poor figure here of the Hangman. Not surprised to see another really strong, powerful reading at the end of, this episode. I will also go ahead and leave the questions in the description box just in case you want to do this reading for yourself. Let me know your thoughts on the reading. How is the energy of the Hierophant speaking to your own personal evolution? The Hierophant teaches us that truth isn't always new, but it's not always old. It is found in sacred dialogue between tradition and transformation. The Hierophant invites us to honor our ancestors, question our conditioning, and choose the beliefs that nurture our own path forward. Now, the next time that we gather, we will be meeting the Lovers. And this is where the Fool learns the power of choice, of connection, and aligned desire. Make sure to subscribe and follow along as we unlock the major arcana. Thank you for watching. Bye.